Welcome to the Church of Thomas. Herd Mentality, 10-1-10. Recently I was at a campground that had livestock in it, specifically cattle, and I had a first-hand observation of how cattle respond to different kinds of situations. There was this one young female who was in heat, and basically every time she started running off, the whole herd would go follow her. There was another time that one of the youngsters just decided that it wanted to start playing and ran straight back to the barn. Well, before you knew it, all of them were stampeding back to the barn. There wasn't any treat there. They were just going because the one decided to go. One of the problems in our society today is that often we choose a leader and we don't think for ourselves, and we blindly follow that leader without thinking. Thomas was always a good one for telling us to examine the motivations of the people who were leading us so that we could make our own judgments and make our own decisions based on what's best for us. Because just because it's good for the leader that you have chosen to emulate doesn't mean it's good for you. Here are a couple of verses to illustrate. Gospel of Thomas, verse number 3. Jesus said, "If your leaders say the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the air will get to heaven before you. If the leaders say heaven is in the sea, the fish will get to heaven before you. Instead, know that heaven is inside of you and heaven is outside of you." Basically, it's really easy for a leader to say, this is the way you need to go, and just start heading off in that direction. But it could be right off a cliff like a lemming. Like these cattle, they were responding to something that was desirable for that one animal, but they all followed it. And they didn't get to eat for that 10 minutes where they were running around trying to figure out what was up. If they had examined why the person was running back to the barn, they might not have gone. Here's another verse. It's Luke 6:39. He also told them a parable. Can a blind person guide a blind person? Will they not both fall into a pit? Same sort of thing. If you don't analyze the motivations of the leader that you have chosen, they might be just as blind as you are. And if you follow them, you could wind up falling into a pit or a problem that is of their making that had nothing to do with you. Always analyze what's going on. One of the things that I've noticed is that when you compare livestock, there are the cattle and sheep of the world, and there are the goats. And goats have a unique way of dealing with danger. One of the things that they do is that, yeah, they have a titular head, and basically it's the oldest female and usually the great-grandma of everybody in the herd. And most of the time the judgment of this animal is, wow, she must really know something. But when danger comes, they do something unique. Unique in herd societies. And that is, they split up. They each go their own decision way of going, and then they look back to see if it's okay to stop running. Unlike sheep, who basically glom onto the leader and run headlong even if it's off a cliff, the goats will actually waste a lot less energy because they'll actually stop and look back and see if the danger has been abated. Every time you follow a leader blindly without understanding why they're asking you to do something and the direction they're asking you to go, you're risking running off of that cliff with the sheep. I ask everybody to try and consider being a goat for once and understanding what your needs are, and follow reputable people, but if they start going a direction that makes you uncomfortable, think about it and don't follow them just because they have led you before. God bless the whole world. No exceptions. Angel Eliza.